What happens when two dudes, one a retired Navy SEAL commander in Colorado Springs, and the other a hippie meditation teacher in New York City, get together to discuss living mindfully? That's a great question, because we don't know what will happen either. Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with co-hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Each week, we take an authentic dive into how mindfulness continually impacts our lives, deepens our relationships, and allows us to be emotionally alive. We filter all of our conversations through the man box, where we unpack how as men we are expected to act in society, how fighting the authentic human experience is exhausting and damaging, and how mindfulness can help. Now, on to the show.
Will, season 3, here we are, brother. How are you, man?
Yes, welcome, John. Welcome, audience. Welcome. I'm so excited that it is finally July 9th, and it's 12:30 Eastern time. We are back live on the air for season 3 to kick off season 3, which I'm so excited about. So, welcome, John. How are you feeling?
Oh man, I'm feeling excited, and it's ironic that today's show is on patience, because in all honesty, I've kind of been impatient and just been so excited about this show and getting back into it, talking with you, seeing you, and then more importantly, or not more importantly, but just as importantly, talking with our audience and having them being part of the show and hearing from them. That said, hey, we are out of practice. I actually started the thing off with the wrong countdown. It is what it is. We're raw and unapologetic, right? So we're here. We're starting something new. We've actually got the chat off to the side where our audience can see it. So, hey, if you like that, we would love to hear your feedback. If it's distracting, let us know, but we're trying something new. So if you do comment in Facebook, if you comment in LinkedIn, wherever you comment, it should theoretically come up in the side there so that we can try that. We're also going to be trying something new with Spotify Green Room. That's going to be something that we'll kick off sometime in the next few weeks, but that's going to be an audio only opportunity live where people can tune in, much like Clubhouse. They can tune in and actually their voice will come across, and then we'll take that and publish that as a podcast episode as well. The bottom line is we're just trying out some new things.
Yeah. I'm also for that greenhouse, John. Hopefully we'll get a chance to bring it into the live episode, and we can actually have live voiced questions instead of text questions. Right. Exactly. Someone can maybe have, so that's really exciting. Thanks for John looked into that, everybody, not me. And I'm excited to bring in some new technology to and also how we're seeing the screen. So thanks for being all nerdy, John. And
I am, man. This stuff fascinates me, man. The
I love it.
Out there.
Thank you.
So the episode, let me catch you guys up. So we've been off for, 6-7 weeks, something like that. We actually recorded an episode yesterday that will be broadcast in 2 weeks on the 23rd. But this is our first live show of season 3, and we are a little out of practice, but we're super excited to be back with one another and then with the audience, and super excited to be in new places, have new haircuts. We both have new fresh haircuts. No man bun for Will, and no beard, and kind of a high and tight for me over here, looking more like my old military days. But hey, for those of you who may not have ever tuned into the show live or on podcast before, I'm Jon McCaskill out here in Colorado Springs, retired Navy SEAL commander turned mindfulness and meditation teacher, and my brother from another mother there in New York City, Will Schneider, mindfulness and yoga teacher. And we've teamed up to do this, to bring mindfulness to the masses, but also to break down the stigma that surround mindfulness or mental health for men or anyone in general. But a lot of the discussion does center around men or masculine personalities. So today, the episode is on patience. And Will, the way that we always kick these shows off, we start with a grounding practice. And Will's going to kick it off today with that grounding practice. So over to you, brother.
Well, before, thanks, John. And before we kind of jump into the breathing practice, I'm actually in my parents' house right now. So I'm in Pennsylvania.
The house is empty now. Tomorrow actually kicks off our 75th annual Schneider reunion. And also, sadly, and I'm asking for patience here for everybody. So the house is empty now. There might be some disruption or phone calls coming through. I mean, sadly, my mom's in the hospital right now. She's doing okay. So there might be, I don't know. I don't expect anybody coming through during the show. So thank you for your patience if they do, and the audio is like kind of messed up or whatever. I'm in Pennsylvania today. But let's start our grounding practice today. I'm going to give a little shout out to Dr. Seth Hickerson. He has a beautiful acronym for just collecting yourself, gathering yourself with breath and moving on. He says BAMO, right? BAMO, breathe and move on. And we're just going to work with this very simple technique. We're just going to inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds. We're going to do it for 7 rounds. We're going to practice this here. So anytime you're out there and you're feeling kind of stressed, you're feeling impatient, you're feeling like you want to like strangle somebody, instead of doing any one of those things, right? You get BAMO, right, with an exclamation point. Right, BAMO, breathe and move on. So thank you, Dr. Seth Hickerson, who's also another plug for him. He's coming on the show to talk about mental fitness on July 30th, right?
Right.
We're gonna have him on the show. So let's practice a little BAMO. Really, again, it's very simple. BAMO, BAMO, BAMO. So find your seat, or you can do this driving or walking down in wherever you are. I always talk about grocery shopping. Maybe I'm hungry or something all the time. So wherever you are, stop what you're doing. If you can close your eyes and ground your feet and ground your hands, and if you're sitting, create a nice long spine. And we'll just start with a nice little exhale through the nose. We're going to do this breathing technique throughout the nose. So exhale out the nose. Okay, let's take an inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhaling easy and smoothly. 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale smoothly. 4, 3, 2, 1. Just a few more rounds. Inhale. 4. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's keep going. Inhale. 4. Exhale. 4. Let's do a couple more. Inhale. 4. See if you take a deeper breath. 2, 1. Exhale. 4. One more. Inhale. 4. Exhale. 4. Good. And just come back to a normal breath, or keep that 4-4 breath moving if you like. I just want you to be aware just how you're feeling, where you are, even what your intention is, for listening to this show. And just to grounding ourselves in this moment, with our time, with this space, with our breath. And also this breathing, just BAMO, can really help us to get into, how to exercise patience, and breath is an excellent tool to help you slow down and find patience, and receive the gifts of patience as well. So when you're ready, if you want to make some movement in your head, neck, roll it around a little bit. When you're ready, open your eyes and get excited, everybody, because we are about, here we go, Jon.
Right on. Breathe and move on. Yeah, Dr. Seth Hickerson. That's a head nod to you, and super excited to have you on the show here soon, brother. And well done, Will. Great practice. And like yesterday, we recorded the 3rd episode for the season that will again be airing here in a couple of weeks. But like that, I was a little anxious for that, just because I was excited, right? New season. Right. But going live is a whole new level, right? A whole new level of I don't want to call it anxiety, it's excitedness, right?
Right.
But that grounding practice again calmed me down. So thank you for that. And like yesterday, and the audience will hear this in a couple of weeks when we have that other episode that we recorded yesterday, when the birds were chirping in the background, we could hear that. Today you could hear the clock in the background.
Oh,
which
yeah.
was actually, again, awesome. It was perfect.
Yeah, my dad built that clock. My dad
no
built
way.
that clock.
Really?
Like, I mean, when I was like in our first house, that was a little like maybe a mile from here. I remember him. I must have been like 2 or 3 years old. I remember my dad building this clock, and we still have it like, 46 years later. It's crazy, right?
That's wild. That's wild. I love it. I love it. Well, what I was going
Yeah.
to say is it's perfect tie into today's show, because patience has so much to do with time, or our perception of time, or our perception of a lack of time. So it's almost as though you planned that, brother. So I love it.
Yeah, I know. It's I think it's actually not on perfect time, because it's supposed to hit at 12:45 and it's like 5 minutes early. So that's okay, John. I'm being patient.
That's right. Being patient. Be patient with that clock. Well, the other thing so we could do the grounding practice normally, and then we also kick off with a mindful moment of the week. And again, since we've taken the break from season 2 to season 3, my wife had our third child. We have a new little girl, 7 weeks old today. As a matter of fact, she was born at 11:59 on May 21st, 11:59 and 16 seconds, 11:59 p.m. So almost on the 22nd, but May 21st, she squeaked in there. And again, like all my moments with her right now are my mindful moments. So again, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention her. And because she's 7 weeks old, she's starting to actually see and like track with her eyes and then smile at you. And those moments, I tell you, I don't know if there's a more mindful moment. It's just seeing your child smile at you. So that's been my mindful moment for this week, brother. How about yourself?
Well, then before we go on the Mayan, this is your third time father now, John. Is there anything from your third child, even at like 7-8 weeks, that you're learning? I'm just curious, like, having a newborn. I mean, I'm sure a lot, but like maybe 1 or 2 that are really like, boom, stick it in your mind. I thought it'd be cool to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'm learning anything necessarily new with this child in particular yet. I'm sure when she starts having her own personality and her own way of reacting with things, I think that I'll learn a lot there. But what I am learning is the zone defense, right? With 2 children, it's mom and dad. So 2 children, it's man to man. I've got 1 kid and my wife has another kid that we're kind of defending, if you will. And now with the third one is crying, and there's 2 other ones. So we have to play zone defense. So it's 3 versus 2. So zone defense is in full effect over here.
Zone defense. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I'm talking about organizing, right? I mean, or whatever you're doing. But thanks, John, for that. I appreciate you sharing. My mindfulness moment of the week is like, my mom. My mom is talk about exercising patience. My mom's in the hospital right now. It's not like a deadly illness or anything like that. So I mean, it makes me feel better about it. She has an infection in her leg that has been going on for a long time, and it finally landed her in the hospital. And it's been a different experience. Like, it was really strange to like, my big brother came in last night. My dad's here, myself. And it's like one of the first times like I slept in this house without my mom around, so that was like, that's something that kind of struck me last night. That my mom's not here, I saw her this morning, she was sitting in a chair. She's doing okay. She's able to walk to the bathroom, it's all good signs, but how deeply that love goes to your family, and how willing, I mean, without even needing to put forth any effort, how you sit with them at the hospital, you talk to the doctors, you take the phone calls, and it's just like, it really felt, because my parents have never really been sick or never kind of been in the hospital like this. And never, to just be able to have that like almost a biological, wiring of just be like, well, this is what you do, and you just be with them. And that was, I noticed that this was like 2 days ago. I was like, wow, like, I don't feel impatient. I don't feel frustrated. I don't want to even be anywhere else. I just want to be here with my mom and be, and help the family understand what's going on in any way possible. So, again, that's something new, and it's something, beautiful. It's sad at the same time. It's interesting to see my mom's cat. Like, where's mom? Like, where's mom? Where's mom? My dad, is cleaning the house, and like my dad never vacuums the floor. So I think that's a way of my dad, who's like a very confined masculine, way of like kind of showing his love and appreciate my mom in some way.
Yeah.
So these little things like this, again, sad, but just kind of beautiful to see humanity come through in another way.
Awesome, man. And definitely thinking about your mom, and hope the best and quick healing for her. And and I know you mentioned before the show that she may even be tuning in. So
yeah. Actually, if you're out there, Mom, say, hey, Janet Schneider. She's on trying to figure out Facebook, but maybe she'll be actually on today. If you're out there, Mom, put a couple hearts up. You know how to do that on the emoji thing, because I love you too, and I love you being here, and so does everybody else.
And we're definitely thinking about you.
Yeah. So, thanks, John.
Great, man. I'm glad that you have that moment and that ability to be there with your family in this time. And like I mentioned before, definitely thinking about your mom in this. Let's move on to the topic, man. Patience.
Yeah.
And I know, this day and age, we're living in the day and age of instant gratification, right? There's you go to the grocery store, and if you wait in line for longer than a minute, you get frustrated. I mean, a lot of people don't even go to the grocery store anymore. They get their groceries delivered to them.
Right.
I remember the day and age of, remember the infomercials with the 1-800 numbers that used to say something to the effect of, hey, please allow 6 to 8 weeks delivery. That would not be acceptable in this day and age, right? We have Amazon, that if we get on the Amazon app on our phone and we click, deliver today, something can be at our house within a couple of hours.
Right.
Or we used to go to Blockbuster. Remember the Blockbuster video store, and we would rent VHS tapes. And sometimes the tape that we wanted to watch wasn't even there, and we would have to wait for it to come back, or we'd have to reserve it. But now in this day and age, we can stream something within a couple of seconds. Hey, we want to watch the latest Netflix movie, whatever, we can stream it. Bam, it's on our TV. The day and age of sending a letter and then waiting weeks for that response via letter is not a thing anymore. We've got email, or even better, you've got text. And with text, you send a text and you get that read receipt, right? Sometimes at the bottom of a text, it'll say read, and you instantly expect a response. You're like,
yeah, hey, that's a great point.
I better have a response within the nenext minute, or something's wrong.
Right.
So anyway, this day and age, that's wearing us out. It's probably doing more harm. It's certainly convenient. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely conveniences that I appreciate, but it's also changed our ability to be patient. And patience and mindfulness are inextricably intertwined. Absolutely. And we're going to get into that in the show. And I know you are a huge definition guy, a huge quote guy. So why don't you jump in with the definition or some of your quotes that you were talking about?
I have yes, I like the definition. I like, this one quote by Rilke, which has been blowing my mind for a long time. I'm definitely going to read, but I think one thing, just to kind of set up, let's talk about the feelings of impatience, John. I think it'd be nice to kind of set who are we and how are we showing up in the world when we're impatient? So just to kind of give, an idea of of the human experience when we're being impatient. So and maybe the audience can throw, some things like feelings here, so obviously when you're impatient, or not obvious, but it's, if you're, I guess, and this also helps us to develop more of that emotional literacy and more of that EQ that is so important for mindfulness. So you become frustrated when you're impatient, right? You begin to kind of lose perspective and come usually very myopic in one, kind of looking at things from one particular angle. It's actually, being impatient is also a very selfish state as well. When there's how many people does it take, John, to deliver that package to your doorstep in a day? I mean, think about all those things that can possibly go wrong in order to make that happen, right? And we're just living in an incredible time of technology. What are some other things that come for you, John, when you think about, the feelings or ways of being when we're impatient?
Yeah. I mean, an example, right? Anecdote. I was at Wal Mart last week. And I went there to buy a specific toy for my little girl. She had seen it in a commercial, and I don't want to spoil my little girl, but she saw this commercial and she was absolutely adamant that she needed that toy. And the only way I was going to get her to settle down, which is again funny, it's ironic because she was being impatient about having this toy. But I went to Walmart and I got this toy. And I went and waited in line. I could have gone to the electronic line, but I had some other things. I think I had some alcohol in the cart, so I had to go through the line with the person, right? And there was a person in front of me that wrote a check. And I mean, that's pretty rare these days at the grocery store for a person to write a check, right? But it takes time for them to write the check and then for them to run that through the machine, whatever. And I found myself getting a little impatient and almost like in my mind thinking, get with the times, person. Like, get with the times. Well, why don't you have your Apple Pay or whatever? Like, come on, this is not the day of age of writing checks. And then I realized that I was doing that, and I was like, I've got to be more compassionate with this lady in front of me.
There you go. Yeah,
and realize maybe that's her only method of payment, or maybe she's got something else going on, and we've talked about this, and I know even in our show notes, it talks about like hearing yourself, imagine yourself on a recording. And I love that you put that in there. And I imagined hearing myself being like, come on, lady. And I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed for what I was feeling toward this lady. So, we talk about metacognition, like thinking about your thoughts, thinking about your emotions. Well, my metacognition was kicking in. I was embarrassed for myself for thinking the way that I was. I was angry at her initially. I was angry at the process of writing checks, the fact that process even still exists. And that I know that anger and frustration was manifesting as tension, as irritability. And it was causing my heart rate to go up. It was causing, all the natural bodily reactions that happen. The body, my heart rate increased, my breath rate increased, and it was all for nothing. Right.
Like, all in your head too. Right.
Yeah, it was completely in my head. And when I was able to take a second and be like, hey, you know what? Have some compassion for this lady.
There you go.
You're not in a rush. You don't need to rush home. And you know what? I always joke with myself. I'm like, I'm a mindfulness teacher and I'm getting frustrated. What the heck? I'm still a human being. But the mindfulness piece comes into play. I realized that was all happening. I realized that my heart rate was increasing. I realized that I was getting tense, and then realized, you know what? This is not worth it. Have compassion for this lady. And I calmed down. So the flip side, right? I was able to calm myself down and feel better about things. And I'm sure she could even feel that, right? We've got the mirror neurons, and she could probably feel that the person behind her was not being impatient. So she felt better about things. And that's another thing is our impatience, how it can affect those around us, our family, friends, coworkers, or even another lady in the Walmart line. So that's what I was feeling.
No, that's great. I mean, you bring up, you become apathetic, right? Irritable, anger, frustrated, heart rate. You actually just think about it. It's like, it starts to affect you physically. Heart rate goes up, right? What happens? So it's almost like being impatient keeps us in that, that survival mode, that sympathetic nervous system, right? Where being patient, right, and practicing patience. We're going to, you mentioned a lot of good things in that little story, Jon, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, like ways to exercise patience, or what are, how to exercise patience within relationships, within those kind of interactions with themselves. But it's also, it can work on the self as well. So yeah, great. I mean, good story. And so let's just jump in. So we'll talk about, I'll talk about, here's the definition of patience based on our Webster's dictionary. It says here's patience defined: able to remain calm and not become annoyed when waiting for a long time or when dealing with problems or difficult people. Okay. Able to remain calm. Right. That's like, boom. Like, so how do we get there? Right. We're going to talk about that. Right. And not become annoyed. Right. Again, that's that we get activated, heart rate goes up. We kind of, get triggered. when waiting for a long time, right? And think about, like we mentioned earlier, about that kind of selfishness. Like, why does it always have to be on your time? Right? I mean, think about you, right? Or when dealing with a problem, because problems, my mom's in the hospital, like I don't want her to be there. Why isn't the at this point, like why isn't the blood work back? Why isn't the other infection specialist coming in? It's like, when is this going to happen? Or dealing with difficult people, people that don't have any patience, or annoyed or triggered by something else that is going on in your life. So that's the definition. I'll give a few quotes here. Two are shorter and then one is longer, by Rilke. The first one is by Napoleon Hill. And he says, patience, persistence, and perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success. Patience, persistence, and perspiration make a unbeatable combination for success. Michelangelo says that genius is external patience. I kind of like that, right? Michelangelo, genius is external patience. Oh, eternal. What the hell am I reading? Oh my God. Right. Genius is eternal patience. Right. Thanks, John. I feel a little foolish.
No, I'm here for you, man. It's also external though. I mean, it actually works with external as well. The
external, internal. We just redefine Michelangelo's definition right now on the air. So good. We're genius right now, John. So here's Rilke, and I think Rilke. This is from Letters from a Young Poet. Really great book. It's very tiny, amazing read, and really very deep. And he says, Rilke, be patient towards all that is unresolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are now written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given you, because you will not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. That's Rilke.
Love it, man.
That quote is like, wow. I used to read that in class for yoga or before meditation, because we all have questions, and like we all are pursuing different things, or we all want things to happen. But it's like, be patient towards all that is unresolved in your heart, and try to live the questions themselves. So that's kind of our baseline, John. And you set up a wonderful baseline as well, talking about the hyperactive and hyper connected and hyper kind of impatience world that we live in because of this instant gratification. And I feel that too. With text messages, with Amazon, like right. And I've been there. Like I had a couch delivered a few months ago or longer, and I was like, why is this taking 2 weeks to deliver my couch? I'm delivering a giant couch, I'm full of feathers and nice fabric, so it's just like, but I think we all fall prey to that for sure.
I ordered a car online, right? I could have been in my pajamas. I don't remember, but I ordered a car through Carvana. I've actually ordered two using Carvana, because going to the car dealership, I don't have the patience for that. Right. So I need to find ways to be more patient, and mindfulness and patience go hand in hand. I mean, they're like I mentioned before, they're completely intertwined. Being aware of your impulses, what's driving your impatience, right? You have an impulse for, I don't know, you see a candy bar and you have an impulse to eat that candy bar, right? Well, what's driving that? It's hunger, your addiction to sweets, whatever. Maybe you have an impulse towards you need money, you want money rather, and that's driving you to do something that's gonna steal money. I don't know, but I'm just trying to show that there's negative things that can come from these impulses: greed, hunger, lust, aggression. And what does that do for you? What does that do for you personally? What does that do for those around you? And then the inverse, if you notice those impulses and then you don't give in to them, one, you're being mindful by noticing the impulse. Two, you're being patient by not giving in to them. And then three, most of the time when you don't give in to your immediate gratification impulses, you're going to be better for it. You're going to like, hey, you didn't eat that candy bar, so now you're going to be able to reach your your health goals, your weight goals, because you're not
Right.
eating junk. You're not stealing money, right? I mean, not that that's
Yeah.
something I do. I don't steal money, but the bottom line, I'm just trying to show an example.
Right.
But by not giving into those, you're a stronger person, but you're also going to ultimately, literally, be better for not giving into those immediate gratification impulses. So that is where the mindfulness and patience really come together. You can't practice mindfulness, or rather you can't practice patience if you're not mindful. Mindfulness, and I've got the definition here, we've read it a couple of times and there's various versions, but the one that I pulled up today is mindfulness is defined as a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations. Wow. So when you're attempting to remain calm and not become annoyed when waiting for a long time.
React, right?
Yeah, exactly.
React.
When you're when you're not reacting, that is you being patient, and that is you being mindful.
Right.
One and the same. So they're very close, and they're, like I said, they're inextricably intertwined. So.
Well, and it's also, I think what we didn't say so far is it's a skill. And it's a practice, and it's something like, if you want to be good at anything, it's going to take time. It's going to take practice. And the beautiful thing about patience is you can exercise it all the time, because it is like be more patient with think about it, being more patient with other people, right? Your family, coworkers, loved ones, being more patient with yourself, instead of always like trying to rush ahead, being more patient at work, we want to be, think about the show, John. We want to have this big show, this large audience, millions of downloads. Well, you know what? It's going to take a little patience to get there, right? And a lot of patience. But just like Napoleon Hill said earlier, patience, persistence, and perspiration are an unbelievable combination for success. I mean, even one of my favorite hip hop artists, Kendrick Lamar, I think in Element, he has a line. He goes, careers can take off. Right. All it takes is patience. It just requires patience, So all the great artists know this. And I think, that's why Michelangelo was able to say, what genius really is. And it's this patient state. And I think also what I hear a lot of, great sages talk about, it's like, or even this is another one I like by Emerson. He goes, adapt to the pace of nature. Her secret is patience. Right. So you look at, and I think that's why it's important to be in nature, even or meditate in nature, or they have talk about how, if you disrupt any stage along a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, right? It will never manifest into a butterfly. It needs that gestation period in that gooey cocoon that looks ugly, this and that, right? And all, and then one day it just breaks out and has these beautiful color wings and is able to fly. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's but it takes time. And I think that people forget that, because we're just so jacked, because there's so many, impatient personalities around us. And we come back to lead by example. If you're more patient, you can be that, just like compassion and love, patient has its own frequency, and you can be that tuning fork for patience. When you just take a couple breaths, calm yourself down, don't make it about you, right? And then what's possible, and what's going to be possible with other people. If you're not adding to the frustration, to the confusion, to the argument, to the impatience, and actually being present and being patient and taking a couple breaths, it's you're going to affect yourself, and you're going to affect others around you, and you're going to have hopefully a better outcome with whatever's going on in that particular moment. By taking a step back, which is the first step of patience. I don't need to exercise, my ego in this. I think patience or impatience has a lot to do with ego. It's I want it now. What about me? It's you said you do it yesterday. And then your mind is going you're an idiot, blah, blah, blah. And then start blaming instead of wait. It's how am I showing up in this instance? And what can I do in order to, instead of making things, heightened and more kind of sympathetic nervous system way, how can I calm down and get back to, again, the definition of mindfulness you mentioned and the definition of patience both have the word calm in them. So it's obviously very important.
I love the the butterfly analogy, and I'm going to take it one step further. I think there is a story about, as that butterfly is going from the caterpillar into the butterfly, going through the chrysalis, however you say that, and they actually start to break out of that. Yeah. There's a story of a little boy who's watching this. He's like, you know what, this is taking too long, and he takes some scissors and he helps the butterfly by cutting the chrysalis. Wow. And what that does is that actually makes the butterfly weak, because part of the strength that comes for a butterfly is breaking through the chrysalis. Yeah. It's spreading its wings in the chrysalis. That's where it gets the fluid into its wings. That's how it spreads those wings. That's how it becomes strong. But the butterfly gets so impatient, the little boy gets so impatient and cuts the chrysalis. And now this butterfly comes out and it's all like still curled up, and it can't grow its wings because it's not putting in the work. And that's the inverse, right? That's where the impatience actually causes a lack of growth and a lack of strength in that butterfly. And talking about the little boy, I want to talk about the Stanford marshmallow experiment that we've all heard about before. And since it was conducted, it's been redone and challenged. But the premise of the experiment, and I'm sure many of the listeners or viewers now have heard this, but for those who may not have, at Stanford, they took a group of children and they put them in a room and they gave them one single marshmallow. And they said, hey, if you wait until I come back into this room, I'll give you 2 marshmallows. I'll give you another one. So you'll have 2, right? So you basically wait, don't eat this marshmallow, and you'll get 2. And then the adult walks out of the room, and you can look this up on YouTube. It's really cute to watch this happen. Like the kids, what they do to try to stop from eating this marshmallow, like they go through some excruciating pain. I mean, some of the kids are like picking up the marshmallow, sniffing it, and turning it around and looking at it. And then some kids just like snatch the marshmallow up and eat it right away and don't even try. Right. And what they did is years later, they looked at where these children were as they had grown up, and almost to a person, at least in this initial study, they found that the children were able to wait longer for preferred rewards, tended to have better life outcomes as measured by SAT scores, educational attainment, body mass index, and other life measures. Now, I'm not by any means saying that if your body mass index is off, then you have a poor life, or that if you don't have a PhD, then you have a poor life. But that was just their measurement in this particular study. It was really interesting. Since that study, again, it's been challenged. And funny enough, one of the authors that you and I are a fan of, Stephen Kotler, in the Rise of Superman, he talks about this, and how the similar thing is how those who go after the marshmallow initially, they have a lack of impulse control. And those who wait have that impulse control, and they do show that strength and patience. Anyway, it's an interesting read, The Rise of Superman. He actually goes the other way and says those who don't have the impulse control actually sometimes live a more exciting life. But they're more apt to give in to those impulses, and sometimes giving into those impulses can really take and have negative effects. So anyway, the marshmallow Stanford marshmallow experiment, if you never heard of it, check it out on YouTube. It's really cute to watch. So anyway, just wanted.
Well, I think there's a balance, a little balance sometimes between our impulses and that spontaneity, which gives us more of a zest for life, which is really important. And also patience, we always don't want to be rushing ahead and doing this, doing that, but there's also these moments where it's like, oh, that's got to happen, and I got to go for it. And I think one thing we haven't really mentioned yet, but one thing that has definitely helped you, and I actually want to ask you a question too, Jon, that helps me become more patient is my meditation practice.
Oh yeah.
Because I get to sit with my mind. I get to sit with my feelings. I get to sit, with whatever happened or transpired that day that has brought up whatever feelings are going on. And by being able to sit, take time, like literally calm down, put a pause on things, begin to find my breath and know all these different things, I could really, then I can begin to exercise and begin to develop more of that skill of patience. But also, and as I begin to become more mindful, work with my meditation practice and really become more of a conscious individual, I also begin to understand my relationship to my impulses. Like, oh, that's a good impulse. That's coming from some place inside, gut, whatever, not like ego driven or like I just need sugar kind of thing, whatever that is. We have these things like, oh, I need that, but do you really? So it's like, instead of like, is you get to know yourself in this time. Oh, what I want to ask you, Jon, is like, you've been practicing mindfulness for, quite a few years now. Like if you could remember or go, what, like, so because, we're a mindfulness program, we're really big proponents and advocates of mindfulness. If you could remember yourself, like what was your patience like pre-mindfulness and then through mindfulness and now, if you can, or maybe you're just always an asshole, Jon. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But you have to with me, Jon. I don't know what you're hiding. No, I'm just kidding. I had to drop the A word one time, one episode, Hey,
we're good. So I think that there was definitely times where my lack of mindfulness prior to learning about meditation and then living mindfully, I was definitely impatient. I still get impatient at times, but I notice it more. But back then, that impatience did lead to poor eating. It led to a desire for instant gratification through, honestly, pornography, or again, eating poorly, not having the patience to work out regularly because, hey, I would go to the gym, work out, and, I wouldn't see instant effects. So, I took various performance enhancing medicines. I never took steroids, but I took, human growth hormone because I wanted to be strong and I didn't want to put in the work. I didn't have the patience to put in the work. I didn't have the patience to run a long time. I didn't have the patience to work out in the gym regularly. And I think that's where that lack of mindfulness caused a lack of patience, which caused poor health, caused irritability, caused impatience in myself, caused impatience in my relationships, both with my ex-wife now, and with family, friends, coworkers outside of that relationship. So I think having the mindfulness, the meditation practice and living mindfully now has exponentially increased my patience, which now as a father, coming back full circle to the beginning of the episode and one of our last episodes last season, fatherhood, parenthood, just being a parent. I think having patience is critical. So to develop that patience, that can be done through the practice of mindfulness or rather the practice of meditation, living mindfully.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Jon. And but isn't it funny? You talk about, how impatience is kind of brings a certain, had the habits of impatience like start. So it's like this instant gratification or, and it shows up in your workout. It shows up in, your relationship. It's showing up in, the pornography and stuff that you talked about. It's just like this constant, like now. And that's like never how life happens at all. I mean, again, and I think it's like, what we're also talking about here, coming back to that ego, it's sad, are we feeding, we're constantly feeding. And what's interesting about the ego, and it's talked about in many different ways, but with the one way that I like to, in the yoga world, we talk about, it has these insatiable desires. You will never satisfy that ego. So even if you do get that marshmallow, or even you do get, a little bigger at the gym because you're taking HGH or something like that, there's always going to want more. It's always going to want more. And anytime you're impatient, you are falling in to that energy and to all those patterns and actually strengthening those patterns, behaviors of impatience. And the more you strengthen them, and the older we get, and we keep, in the yoga sutras, they call them sankara, right? And that means rut. And the more we keep running through that rut and we deepen that rut and strengthen that rut, it's so much harder to rescue ourselves out of it and begin to change ourselves mindfully into patient individuals. And that's why it's a skill. That's why it's a practice. And that's why I feel meditation is such a great practice, even if it's just 5 minutes. And some people are talking here in the feed, just like, again, taking that one breath, or just even getting in that mindset to know that, wait, I'm feeling impatient. This is that emotional intelligence and emotional literacy. Instead of being like, would you put that checkbook away? Like, when have you're living back in like 1982, like, why you have a checkbook out, right? You know what I mean? Whatever that is, right? I mean, that's like, that's what's going in your mind. It's like, oh my God, where has this woman been? Like, what kind of rock has she been living under? And you're just getting yourself worked up, heart rate's going, like all that kind of stuff, And then you're also like one other people. You're like, you see how stupid this woman is? Sometimes you're right. It can go that far, right? I mean, that's like how ridiculous our mind can be. And that's that ego being exercised, that bringing forth these emotions. And instead it's like, again, bammo, breathe and move on. Like, just stay here. It's like, I just wanted to mention that. And whereas we shift mindfully, we begin to strengthen, and that patience is going to be just going to unlock, just like, I forgot the other episode we did about patience is going to really help you be better with yourself, other
equanimity and impulsivity.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, man, and you bring up some great topics there. And I saw another question here in the comments. And if you guys do have questions, throw it in chat, and we see that most of the time. So we'd love to answer your questions live here on the show. And they are showing up on the video too, so that's a lot of fun. Let us know what you think about that. If it's distracting, let us know. If you like it, let us know. But anyhow, Elmer Williams, one of my old coworkers, he is not old. He was just a coworker of mine from a while ago. Anyway, he says, I can relate to needing patience, but where do you draw the line between patience and intolerance? And I think that's a fantastic question, because actually sometimes patience can be viewed as weakness. Sometimes it's almost expected as a leader, as somebody who is in charge, to not have patience. And that question, where do you draw the line between patience and tolerance? I think when people are abusing your patience, that's where you got to draw the line. When you can obviously tell that your patience is being abused. I remember, and I've talked about this on the leadership versus bosses episode. I had some guys when I was in charge of a fairly large organization. I had some guys screw up, and I was the one that needed to discipline them. And I consider myself a fairly lenient leader, if you will. Not soft, not weak, but lenient. And I remember sitting these guys down and saying, you know what? Don't mistake my kindness for weakness. And I think that's the same thing, is that you cannot mistake patience for tolerance. And you, as the person expressing that patience or tolerance, the line is drawn when people abuse it. And when they cross that line, that's when they're pushing into the tolerance side. And I mean, there's times when tolerance is important, but I think that it's also, it can be that tolerance, too much of it can be weakness, I think. Will, what are your thoughts on that?
No, what came up for me was respect and disrespect. Like if you're, if you feel you're being disrespected or being like manipulated or something like that, which is a form of disrespect, then speak up or it's like, that's what came up. It is a good fine line. And I'm really glad our listener brought that up. But I just like, and again, coming back to the practice of mindfulness and developing these skills, it's like, I'm going to know when I'm manipulated. I'm going to develop a threshold of tolerance that I know it's like, well, you just crossed that line. I mean, like, I gotta speak up, or I gotta put my foot, or I gotta step in. Sometimes you just gotta take action or something like that.
Right.
So, but all of these are practices, and just even developing that threshold and knowing and understanding, like, that tolerance is very, very important. And what your will, and that's going to come, if sometimes my dad's 82 now, he doesn't hear so well. He's like hearing going. So it's like, I'm trying to exercise more patience with him and more tolerance, because he might say this few things the same, or say the same things over and over again, because I guess he's not understanding if he's being heard. So me just trying to being a loving son and just have a great time with my dad and not create like, a ruckus in the house. Then I've exercised more tolerance and more patience with my dad. Someone just brought up here, what about discipline? Which is an interesting question. I think you're going to be, there you go. You're going to develop more discipline as you begin to exercise more patience, and you're going to get to know yourself, I feel, in a different way. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Jon, but that's the first thing hits me as far as like, patience is a discipline. Big time.
Yeah, I was absolutely going to say the same thing. I mean, I think they are. I think they're one and the same.
Right.
Discipline,
right.
Having discipline,
point,
having self-discipline is patience.
That's a great point.
I think so.
Yeah.
If you're not being disciplined in your pursuit of goals, then you're being impatient. If you're not being disciplined, I mean, even as a child, if you're not being disciplined in the way that you act, that's being impatient quite often. Sometimes I will say that maybe as a child, a lack of discipline, there may be childishness, like goofing off when you're told not to, but that's an impatience as well in and of itself. Hey, right now, I don't know, let's just say an example, and that this is just one that I'm making up right now, but let's say you're in church and the kid is bouncing around and being loud, and you're like, hey, I need you to stop right now because we're trying to show some type of reverence. That is an impatience on the child's behalf. Hey, I can go and play in the park and on the playground an hour after this. I just need to be quiet right now. So I guess, I guess that continues to build upon what I said. I think discipline and patience are basically one and the same.
Yeah. Well, I want to say one more thing on that. Then I want to go into like 5 ways to exercise and practice patience within relationships. I think it'd be really good. But also, again, coming back to children, you talk about church. It's like, if you're disciplined and you're patient, right, you are modeling those things. And, just like, imagine, I think it would be nice with that marshmallow test, Jon, and maybe we're going to create a test that someone can do right now. Eventually it's like, I would love to see and get to know the parents of those kids that either ate the marshmallow or waited patiently for the marshmallow. I think that'd be very interesting, because we are very influenced by our environment, and especially as kids, we watch our parents and it's taken me, Jon, 25 years to unwind and retract and get out of that rut that sends scar from the stuff that I learned from my family. Knowing that they're also doing the best I could. As I sit here on the floor, we used to run our railroad track. We used to have our Christmas tree was there. Jon, we used to run this thing over and over and over again, me and my brother. I was thinking here, I'm like, oh my God, we used to do the train here. So let's go into 5 ways to exercise, and practice patience within relationships. This is I don't know if you can put someone could put the link in there.
I'll put this in the comments right now.
Yeah, put that in the camp. Now, this actually, I reworded a little bit so it speaks to everybody, but this is written for parents, but I kind of changed it, so it's everybody, but you can put like children in here as well. So they have 5 ways, right? So the first one is, number 1, seek to understand, right? And that's a quality of empathy as well, right? And they write here, rather than being so concerned if another person is listening to you and understand you, focus on seeking to understand them first. Try to figure out why they are acting a certain way and why they are responding like they do. Okay, so like seek to understand. That's like the first thing. It's like, and again, that's taking that pause and stepping back. Again, that's that moment where instead of I'm going to react and be my bullish, childish self, or I'm going to actually take a breath. This is BAMO, right? Thanks, Seth. And again, Seth, I forgot to mention, his company is mysteadymind.com. Check him out. He's amazing. So that's that first. Step back, seek to understand, be empathetic, and try to like get out of your own way, and then kind of check on the other person. Number 2, be slow to speak, quick to listen. Right? I like that whole, I'll read this in a second, but what they say, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should listen twice, right, as much as we speak, right? So they go on this area. When you listen, really listen, you have a better chance of understanding another. It may It may mean that you'll have to remain quiet until the other person is done talking, right? Don't interrupt when someone is speaking to you. Let them speak without interrupting to criticize, comment, or correct, right? This comes back to respecting other people's points of view, right? That's number 2. Number 3 is look at the bigger picture. Ask yourself, what is really at stake here? Will this really matter in 10 or 5 or even 2 years? All right, someone just walked in, so hopefully. Okay, so number 4, thanks for your patience, everybody. Number 4, think about your words and your tone, right? So when you do begin to express, and we do take that pause, you probably have a better chance of finding the right words. So it goes on to say, if you were to record yourself, you would probably be embarrassed or horrified. Listen at the grocery store, like you just talked about, or the Target line, and you'll hear yourself in the voices of other impatient parents or other impatient people. How does it sound? And the last one here that we practiced in the beginning, right? Breathe deeply and walk away if necessary. And those, I think, are really 5 very simple practice, or like simply understood, but definitely things to important to practice. So again, seek to understand, to take that step back. Be slow to speak and quick to listen. Look at the bigger picture. So gain perspective, think about your words and your tone, and breathe deeply and walk away if necessary. So I thought that was kind of helpful there.
Love it, man. And that's definitely some powerful steps that you can do, right? To increase your patience. And that's, again, tied to mindfulness, hence it being on the Men Talking Mindfulness show. And before we get into the closing grounding practice, I just want to read Shannon Hang's comment here. And it's a great one I've heard before. Shannon says, "My grandma said, better to keep your mouth shut and look like a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt."
I love that quote. I've heard that. Yeah. Well, who wrote that again, Shannon? If you can put it in there.
Yes,
I
Shannon,
love that.
Find that out. Who it was that originally said that? That's a genius one. I do love.
Yeah, super.
So that said, coming to the end of the show, been another great one. Will definitely appreciate everything. So we'll wrap it up with a practice meditation, a patience meditation. The reason it's a patience meditation is there's some silence, there's some gaps here. I'm going to say something and then allow some time. That was Abraham Lincoln quote. There we go. Boom. So giving yourself some time, and sometimes that quiet is uncomfortable. Sometimes that pause in a conversation is uncomfortable, and that in and of itself is an impatience. Sometimes we feel we need to fill that quiet, we need to fill that gap, fill that void. And we end up filling it with stuff that doesn't need to be there. And we can just be quiet. So that's what this meditation is going to be. It's just go ahead, get into your comfortable position. Again, if you're driving, if you're anywhere that you need to keep your eyes open, or if you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, you don't have to. But if you are able to, go ahead, close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath. And just breathe naturally and just listen to your breath. Don't feel a need to fill this silence. Just be with the silence. Be patient. And in this silence, if you're starting to feel that it's awkward, or you're starting to feel a little tension because of the silence, just notice that. Don't judge it, just notice it. And now let's close with one last deep cleansing breath together. We'll breathe out as much as you can. Breathe deep in through the nose. Hold that. And relax, letting it out nice and slow. Patiently letting it out nice and slow with patience. Now, when you're ready, go ahead and start to bring some movement back into your body. Start to blink your eyes open. So there, Shannon continues with that quote. Abraham Lincoln's mom was Nancy Hanks, so it's been passed down through the family. Right on. That's amazing. So anyhow, so Will, another great show. For our viewers, our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in live, and for those who tune in later via the podcast, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. We do this for you guys, and we value your feedback. So feedback via the live chat, feedback via comments later, feedback via personal messages. Please let us know what you think, what we can do differently, what we can do better. And Will, over to you, brother.
I'll just say, well, thank you, Jon. It's great to have our first episode of season 3, which we're really excited to bring a lot of new stuff. We already have 9 people booked, 9 guests booked. We're going to add some more. And thank you, everybody, for our growing audience. Thank you for all the thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you too. And thank you for keeping the mojo going, the mindfulness, Men Talking Mindfulness mojo going in our off season and posting on our behalf. Please keep doing so. Really, we're here to help you, and just have a lot of fun on this platform. I think is really important too, Jon. Like I love connecting with you. I love seeing all these wonderful comments come in continually. I love seeing the chat, and the community that we're growing in all these different spaces online. I'm really excited about the green room, the Spotify green room.
Yeah,
so you're going to see, we literally just talked about that yesterday, everybody. So we're going to be bringing more technology in that can actually create some more cohesive and a more robust and a more fun community. So, and if you have any suggestions, please let us know. We're here to serve you. I mean, we're like servant leaders. Remember we learned about that, right? and that's exactly what the show is in a lot of ways. So thank you, Jon. Thank you, the audience. Thank you, everybody that's participating and supports the show and helps us. And it's great to be back, Jon. I'm really excited.
It is. I missed it, brother. I missed it. And it's good
Me
to be
too.
back. So.
Me too.
All right, brother. And for the audience, for you, Will, love you guys and have a great weekend.
Yeah.
Until
Peace.
next week.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining Will and Jon on Men Talking Mindfulness. If you enjoyed the show, please like and share it with your friends and family. And please, we would appreciate a review too. Until next time, this has been Men Talking Mindfulness. Thanks for showing up.